here. Summer is here. I'm excited that you are here listening to this podcast episode. You guys, you're going to want to listen to this once, listen to it twice, and then probably have some other folks on your team listen to it because it's incredible. Sara Meredith is joining us from Peoria in Arizona and sharing all about their communications camp, how it got started, why they do it, what kind of training they provide, what tools they use, who they include, and break down what the impact that this program has made for them. You're going to learn a lot. If you're listening while you're driving or working out, you're probably going to want to come back because you're going to want to take notes. But I will tell you that we've got some great resources in the show notes. So take a look at that. It really breaks down the communication camp. It gives out some pro tips that she does throughout the school year for her staff. It's a good one. And if you love learning like I do, you will love to know that this summer, we have a free professional development opportunity to learn and be connected through our book study program. I wrote the book Social Media for Schools, released it back in 2023. Last year, we did an awesome 5-week book study on the book, and it was only available to my membership group. Okay. This year we're opening up to everybody. It's free for everyone. Okay. It's a 5-week program, runs from the end of July to just, I think, the beginning of August. 5 different sessions. We record everything, but you got to be signed up to be included. We're going to break down every single section of the book. We got 5 sections. And I want you to be a part of it. So whether you have read the book, whether you're going to reread the book, whether you've never even considered the book, if you want to do social media in a better way, a methodical way, with best practices that work for schools, jump in this little community that we're going to have this summer because you're going to learn a ton. We've got the sign up right in the show notes, or you can go to the website socialschool4edu.com. It's right there on the top. You can get signed up. Now, let's get to this week's K-12 PR tip. All right, today's K-12 PR tip. It's that time of year to check over your Facebook admin group, okay? And it looks a little bit different on the backside of Facebook in your settings and privacy notes. And so I just want to walk through this with you quick. If you are following me on YouTube, I am going to actually show you on my screen. So when you're logged in to Facebook, you're going to want to make sure in the upper right-hand corner, you're logged in as your school's page. Okay. Then we're going to go down to settings and privacy and settings. Okay. This looks different than it has in the past. And so people are like, well, how do I see who's a page admin? Well, you go down here under audience and visibility, and we go to page setup. And once you've hit page setup, there's going to be something that says page access. You're going to view that. It's going to show you everybody who has Facebook page access to your page under Facebook itself. Everybody else could be possibly added under the business manager account. So look down a little bit below. If you've got a business manager, you don't see your name and you're like, I know I'm an admin. Well, that means you're added through the business manager account, which is just fine. That's another tip for another day. If you're really concerned with getting set up properly with business manager, with all your school related Facebook accounts, you're probably going to want to join my membership. We really walk through and give some personal walkthrough of how to get that all set up. But it's very easy once you're here. You can remove, if somebody left your school or school district, you can remove access. You can also add new people and you can invite them in to be an admin. So that's it. That's today's K-12 PR tip. That's where to find it. Now let's dive in to all of the goodness with Sara Meredith today. Let's get started. I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest. Sara Meredith is from Peoria Unified School District in Arizona, and she has done some amazing things. So welcome to the show, Sara.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk a little bit about Comm Camp and just some of the different work that we do here in Arizona.
Yeah, so we met at NSPRA last year because you did one of the gold mine sessions, which, by the way, I'll be at NSPRA in Seattle this year. Will you be there, Sara?
We will be there, and my team and I are presenting on this during one of the Amplify sessions, I believe.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome because I learned so much. It was a crowded table. I loved it so much. You actually came in and taught some of the
Mhm.
same content in my membership group, but then I'm like, we got to get you on the podcast as well. So just want to give a plug for NSPRA this summer in Seattle. There's a lot of great learning sessions, but I'm telling you, those little gold mine sessions are 20 minutes. They are like, you get right to the point. You get so much goodness out
Mhm.
of those sessions. It's usually Wednesday morning. Don't skip out on those because those I just got so much value out of those sessions. So um
Absolutely.
great job on that. So Sarah, why don't you share your background, a little bit about your role there with your school district in Arizona?
Absolutely. I handle mostly our internal communications for our school district. So I work a lot with our human resources department on employee relations, how we celebrate and retain our employees. And then I do also a lot of work with recruitment as well. So through that, social media obviously comes up quite a bit and figuring out different ways that we can help tell our story. This year, a big focus of our team has been telling the why behind what we do to our community. And so really spotlighting those employee stories to just kind of hook some people who otherwise wouldn't consider working in public education. I've worked in the Peoria Unified School District going on 7 years now, and I'm also a very proud product of our school district. So that's always just one of the best pleasures of my job, especially in internal communications, being able to work with my former teachers and hopefully, impressing them a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did you study in school?
Yeah, I studied communications in school.
Okay.
And so that kind of gave a good groundwork. And then the other thing too is I actually started working in our school district while I was still going to college. And so I got to kind of see what that would look like. I always knew I wanted to work and give back to my community. So it just ended up being the perfect fit.
Yeah. When you went to high school there or, any of it,
Yeah.
did you know there was a communications team for your school district?
I kind of knew that there was a communications team. Um, my mom also teaches. She's actually getting ready to retire from our district. So there were a few times where, for example, the big Pride of Peoria event, which is how we recognize all of our employees. I remember being a student and going to that and thinking, oh my gosh, how cool it is. And now it's a full circle moment where I get to go and host that for other employees and celebrate them, just kind of being on the other side of it. So yeah, it's always been a little bit in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the few that, well, there are people in this role that went to school for communications, but a lot of it is like you're a journalist or you're a teacher and you
Mhm.
get into it. Me, I was a chemistry major, but somehow I ended up in school communications and I'm really glad I'm here because the work that you and all people around the country are doing, it's amazing work. So tell me a little bit more about your school district because some people, Sarah, are listening and they're like, oh, that must be nice just focusing on internal communications. So just tell me a little bit about the size of your school district and then your department.
Absolutely. We are the fourth largest school district in the state of Arizona. We have about 35,000 students who enter our classrooms each and every day across 43 different schools, pre-K through 12. And then we also span about 140 square miles. So we're pretty large for a school district, and there's still plenty of room for growth and things like that. Our department itself has grown a lot in the last few years. We currently have 7 people on our team, including some community education folks who help focus on that through preschool and our before and after school care program called Kid Zone. For the main workings of our communications side of our team, we have our Chief Communications Officer, Danielle Airy, our Communications Manager, Erin Dunsey, and then myself and Angela Toll work under Erin as communications coordinators. I mostly take on, like I said, the internal communications and supporting in special projects however I can. And then Angela works mostly with helping to connect with our parents and things like that throughout the school year. We are also very, very fortunate to have someone who does our website and some video production for us, as well as a graphic designer. Like I said, our team has grown a lot in the past few years. It hasn't always been this size, but thanks to the leadership of Danielle and how she's kind of focused more on strategic communications the last few years, we've been able to really articulate to others in our school district the role of a school communicator in the work that we do.
Yeah. So just the average, as far as I've been in this for about 10 years, I mean, it's really appropriate to have about one person per every
Mhm.
5,000 students. So you're right in line with that with seven,
Yeah.
although community ed is a whole nother realm. So you might even be a little bit on the short side, but you guys are doing amazing things. Um, and I think your specialty, we're going to kind of talk about your communication camp program because I
Yeah.
just think that's so great. But the fact that you're focusing efforts with HR and with recruitment and with that internal,
Mhm.
a lot of schools are facing issues with recruitment, Sarah. So, sharing that why and can you give a specific example of how you're sharing that why, or how, what you've done, especially with social media in the last year to help focus on that?
Absolutely. So that actually launched. We have an annual event to kick off the start of school called Opening of Schools that we do each August. So during that, our superintendent's cabinet shared a little bit about different areas of the strategic plan, and Miss Airy shared that the reason why doing community connection and sharing our story is so important is because that is what is going to change the narrative in your community. And so we challenged all of our employees to share with us their reasons for choosing to work in public education and specifically Peoria Unified. Since then, we have been sharing those stories on places like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and spotlighting those employees with different testimonials. We also, on a weekly basis, have an employee newsletter where we celebrate those stories. Sometimes it's as simple as a photo with their quote that they submitted to us as their reason why. Other times we've had a couple of our new teachers come on our podcast even and share those reasons why with us, and dig in a little bit more about the path that they took to become a teacher, because that certainly looks different for everyone, especially nowadays. And so spotlighting them. And then, like I mentioned a little bit ago, we have Pride of Peoria, which is our employee recognition campaign. So as we've had certain Pride of Peoria recipients, like one of our instructional assistants happened to share the reason why she loves her job. So when we said, help us congratulate Christina, we're so excited for her. Here's why she loves working here too, on top of why we love having her. So a lot of social media posts, we've done paid advertising through that. We've used those whys to help advertise job fairs, open positions, help just better explain to our community when we say we're hiring an instructional assistant, what does that look like? What is their work like every day? And then also sharing a little bit about like our employer brand and what it is like to work here.
Okay. So you mentioned quotes and photos, you mentioned
Mhm.
podcasts, the path to become a teacher, which I think is so cool. I was just talking with somebody, and there's so many people that maybe started as a para or a
Mhm.
part-time, and then they really liked the classroom, and then they ended up going back to school, and now they're and just for people to understand that that is a pathway that
Yeah.
could be for them. Do you do much with video, or is it mainly the quotes with the photos, or do you develop some video campaigns that go along
Yeah.
with it?
Not as much video just because of the time constraints
Yeah.
around that. I will say, like when we did our podcast, we recorded that for video as well.
Okay.
And so we were able to take those, do a little bit on TikTok. We have a TikTok account that we use when it best makes sense for our district. And then also throwing those up on YouTube shorts and things like that.
Okay. Well, I kind of love that because some people are like, "Oh, it all needs to be video." No, it doesn't. Like just having those quotes and the photos to use with them is really powerful. So let's get into communication camp because you've been doing that for many years.
Mhm.
And we actually, after you did your training, we ended up having a work session. So we've got a lot of our members um actually implementing this. And those of you listening, we have a little community where we do weekly trainings, and we bring on people like Sarah to kind of teach us things and then take action. So can you tell the listeners a little bit more about communication camp? When did it start? Why did you do it? Who's included? And then I'll keep asking questions as we go.
Absolutely. So Comm Camp started in 2017, a couple of years before I joined the department. And it is just I think, one of the best things that we do throughout the summer. It is our opportunity to work with school leaders and give them the tools that they need to be successful in the upcoming school year. We bring in all different groups. Sometimes we bring in outside organizations, other departments, whoever we feel would be the expert in that topic, knowing that, we have a lot of strengths as a communications team, but not always needing to have every single answer, but at least help our principals find where those answers would be. So through Comm Camp, we give them training on things like crisis response, things like recruitment and retention. That's something that we're hoping to cover this summer when we do Comm Camp. We talk to them about how to use different tools, how to best use social media to tell your story, and just give them all of those little tips and little things to help set them up for success. I will say each year we take a moment to pause and not just say, what are all of the things we think our principals need to know, but what are some of the things they want to learn? Where are areas they feel they're struggling? And so that we can meet them in the middle with that and figure out the best ways to support them through Comm Camp. So it has changed over time. It is mostly a day-long professional development session for them. We do different activities throughout the day, and we try just our best to give them, like I said, all of the tools that they need to be successful going into the start of the next school year.
So, you said you pause and you try to get input of what they want to learn about. What does that look like?
Yeah, so really simple, honestly. We just send a survey out to them or attached to one of their other principal meetings they have throughout the year. We say, hey, today your ticket out the door is to tell us what you want to learn at Comm Camp. We narrow it a little bit. We give them options of, do you want to learn how to do better at parent communication, internal communication, community engagement events, and just kind of list out all the options for them. So ask them if they've been before so that we know not to regurgitate too much content if they've gone the last 3 years, for example. And just really quickly get a baseline of areas that they think they're struggling. And then outside of getting their direct feedback, we also ask their supervisors what areas they have goals with their principals for, or what areas they maybe think they've struggled in this past school year. And then we also always take it to our superintendent and the cabinet so that they can look at areas of our strategic plan. Or, for example, we have a bond initiative on the election this fall, or on the ballot this fall, I mean. And so we're going to take a portion of Comm Camp to talk to them about election communication. What can you say? What can you not say? Here are the facts around the bond. And so we look at whatever those big initiatives are for the district and make sure that they have those tools and resources available before the very first day of school.
So you said your school leaders, but can you give me some roles of people that you include? Obviously, not everybody listening has 43 schools, 35,000 students, that many principals. But if I were doing this at my school, what are some of the positions that are included in the training?
Absolutely. So we have, for over our principals, we have executive directors who act as supports for them. And then above the executive directors is our chief student services officer. In a lot of school districts, that's also their deputy superintendent who comes in and provides support. Our superintendent, our chief academic support officer who oversees our learning and teaching or curriculum and instruction department.
Okay.
She'll come in, and I love partnering with academic services the most because they give us tools and resources, not just on what we should be telling them about in areas they notice our principals struggling in, but they give us feedback on how we should be teaching them. Because our principals are former educators, we try to model quality instruction like we expect our teachers to do in the classroom. And so that's where those partnerships with academic services come in hand. When we go to talk about recruitment and retention, I'll be partnering with our HR team on that to figure out, what are their goals that they have internally so that we're not in any way overstepping in what we share in Comm Camp.
Yeah. Well, when you think about the issues that come up within a year, there's a lot that this group of people deal with, especially those principals, right? And a lot of the issues come down to communication. There's an issue with communication. And so you may be thinking, oh my gosh, a day-long session on communication. And, part of you is probably saying only a day because, I mean, ultimately that one day could help save so many hours and so much
Mhm.
stress and so much extra work for everybody, right? So do these people, it's just written in kind of into their contract as an expectation, or is it an optional thing? How do you guys treat that?
Yeah, it depends year to year. So our principals, they're on a 12-month contract. They're working all summer either way. This year we're giving them an option of 2 dates to attend. Please make it to one of the two. And
Okay.
there'll be 2 identical sessions. Sometimes it's been optional, sometimes it has been mandatory. The first few years that they did it, it was more on the mandatory side. For the same point you just brought up, there are so many things we can prevent during the school year if you just pause and had some of those communication basics. And what I will say is one of the best outcomes of Comm Camp is that, as much as it gives them those tools, it also helps them know that when something does come up in the middle of the school year, they trust us as experts to come to us instead of just trying to handle it on their own and maybe make a little bit more of a mess.
Yeah, it really, I mean, as much as you can teach them in that day, the
Mhm.
biggest probably takeaway is we're here for you, and you're here for us to help, and
Yeah.
so it's just like building that relationship and understanding and knowing that you're listening because you do that surveying ahead of time. Now, you mentioned using the curriculum and instruction group, and I just have to give you props, Sarah, because after you went through this, I started changing the way that I was doing some of my training.
Mhm.
I train school communicators all across the country. And one of the biggest ones was the digital hike.
Mhm.
And I just think that is so can you tell us a little bit about what a digital hike is, and then how that has really helped your attendees really understand, like, oh, this is what they mean, and this, so go ahead.
Yeah. Absolutely. As we know, our principals are busy throughout the school year, and that's sometimes an understatement. And so, what we try to start every Comm Camp with is a digital hike where we give them a few minutes to look at their website, look at their social media, look at their great school reviews, see what they're saying about themselves and what their community is saying about them, so that they have a moment to, if they notice that there is something way out of date on their website, well, guess what? In an hour, we're going to teach you how to update your website and you can fix that. But to also just give them that moment of reflection on their school and is what they want their school to be known for and what they think about their school, what their community actually thinks about their school. So for a lot of our principals, it's a wake up call, especially for our new administrators. It gives them a little bit of a understanding of what they're walking into. They know the things that are important to their community based on social media, or if they've heard, the fall festival is the best thing they do, but they don't see anything on their social media about the festival, they know that that's an area they can improve on. So that digital hike, it is a very, very easy activity, and it's probably the most valuable just because, like I said, it gives them that moment and reflect on what it is they're saying versus what their community is saying.
Yeah, and I can't remember exactly how you started it out, but
Mhm.
when I've been using it, I was like, take a few minutes, write down at least 10 words that you would love for people to describe your school as, right?
Mhm.
What words do you want? And then challenge them. Okay, now go on, for me mainly your social media sites, but
Yeah.
website, social media, what do you see present? And
Mhm.
then you're kind of looking at that gap, and then it's kind of like that aha moment where it's like, oh, I guess we aren't really saying it, or I don't really see evidence of that. And, just identifying some of those words can help drive, well, these are some of the stories we need to tell, right? So,
Absolutely.
is that similar to what you guys do, or did I just offshoot that?
Yeah, it is pretty similar. We have them take a little bit of time to look at, or to think about what they want their school to be known for,
Okay.
and then what they're putting out there. And the other thing we do is a lot of times they'll say, "Well, we are communicating all of these things, but they're communicating them maybe via Parent Square or only to their parents and not on social media." And so, what we also try to remind our principals is Parent Square and any of those more internal mass communication tools are great to communicate to your existing parents, but how are you communicating to that incoming kinder family that doesn't have a way to communicate with you just yet? That's through social media. And so if you want them to come in ready for kinder, ready knowing all about your school, you have to update your website. You have to update your social media presence. And so that's another helpful thing to help them put it a little bit into perspective.
Yeah, I think, you're just so focused on what you have to do day in and day out. Um, just to have a day that you can really think about, okay,
Mhm.
how are we communicating? If I were a parent, how would I? If I were a potential parent? And also, like for you, the recruitment piece, right?
Mhm.
Your new staff members aren't getting that parent square. They're not getting that internal email right
Mhm.
now. They're seeing the website, they're seeing social media. So, what are we portraying out there? And none of it's going to change overnight. None
Right.
of it's like you're going to snap your fingers and it's going to get better, but when they can really understand the why behind why it's important, well, then you can work with them to probably make changes, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what has been the impact that this communication camp has really helped you achieve over the years?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that our team started to see returns on almost instantly from starting Comm Camp was those relationships they built. Like I said earlier, when there is a crisis, principals now know, call PR, let them know. And they bring us in so much earlier than they maybe would have previously. Other things, we see our social media platforms are being used a lot more. We're seeing higher engagement. I will brag on my supervisor, Erin Duncy, for a little bit. Last year, we were lucky enough to win a gold medallion for our kindergarten campaign. And a lot of that was because of things our principals learned at Comm Camp for how to recruit kindergartners, how to help with enrollment. We've seen supports from that throughout the years. We are starting to see some of the returns on the recruitment stuff as well.
Mhm.
But I would say the best thing about Comm Camp is just your principals know that you are now an expert in school communications. You know what you're doing, and those relationships you build are just so invaluable throughout the school year. Even if they can only implement, you tell them this much at Comm Camp, they can do like 10% of that throughout the school year. It is so, so helpful for them to just know that they can lean on you if they need that support.
Yeah. And you shared a couple resources with my members.
Mhm.
Would we be able to share a couple of those things just in our show notes that kind of
Absolutely.
outline and you had put together a nice handout this last year for the NSPRA breakout session, but definitely if you're going to NSPRA in Seattle, definitely attend Sarah and her teams. Obviously it is a team effort. You kind of help head it up. But it's really valuable, and I just can't tell you enough how people were like, this is awesome, we need to implement this. And like I said, so we even put together that little work session, and
Mhm.
obviously it's not going to be perfect the first year. And so you need to take a look at what you need. I mean, some of it is even like how we answer the telephone, and how there's so many aspects to communication and the way we connect with our families, the way we connect with our staff, community, and beyond.
Mhm.
I just think obviously it could be a whole week long session. I
Right.
bet you have a hard time. But did you start out with just like a 4 hour session? Was that right?
I believe the first year they did it, it was a full day.
Okay.
And then it over time, like with COVID and some other stuff like that, it shrunk.
Okay.
We had a year where we had to completely take it off of the agenda for the summer because of some curriculum adoptions and just other pressing things in our district. So
Yep.
we have done it where it is a full day. We've done it where it's a half day. We've done it where it's 2 hours. And that I think is also just one of the really important things I know that in our school district, we are so fortunate to have the team that we do and have as large of a team as we do. But I don't want it to feel like it is something that would dissuade a smaller school district or a shop of just one. We do a survival session for all of our new administrators, which is just an hour long, that gives them the basics about our department, how to respond in a crisis, what to do if the media reaches out to you, how to build community connections, what resources we already have in place. And then throughout the school district, or not the school district, the school year, we also send a pro tip to our principals on a weekly basis in their newsletter that they receive. That's just a couple of sentences on something you can do this week to improve your communications. And we try to time those in alignment with other bigger initiatives we have at the district level.
Yeah. Just keeping a little bit at top of mind, and just those shorter the better, probably.
Mhm.
I love it. This has been amazing, Sarah. You guys are doing such a great job. As we wrap up, social media, when it comes to social media, what would you say is your best tip?
Yeah, I think our best tip and what I try to tell our principals all the time is your families, your parents, your employees, your alumni, they are already telling your story. So figure out a way to leverage those relationships so that they can be telling the things that you're excited for them to share. Give them the tools and the resources and the avenues to be able to get those stories and communicate them. They are the influencers in your community. They have such a strong network in their own sphere of influence. And so anytime that you can get in front of your employees and share this big, exciting, recruitment initiative or information about your upcoming elections, or you can share that with your parents, they are ready and they're so excited to share things about their kids' school or the place that they work. You just sometimes need to pause and give them those tools to be able to do so.
Yeah, I love it. Word of mouth marketing is still number one. Word of mouth marketing looks a little different than everybody just saying it. Sometimes they're
Mhm.
saying it on social media. They're going to reach a lot of people with their thoughts and
Yeah.
opinions, but sometimes we've just got to give them the right stories and the right,
Mhm.
things that are worth sharing. And so
Absolutely. And
I
sometimes too,
yeah, yeah,
sometimes
cool.
for our employees, we even create toolkits for them and we create graphics and we say, hey, if you want to share about this, here it is. You can copy and paste, you can make it your own. But like as simple as that, that just goes so far to help on social media get to people that you wouldn't get to otherwise.
Yeah, it's true marketing efforts. And I mean, it's easy marketing, I think, because it's just like, well, we're just celebrating the great things that are happening or these great opportunities that people can
Mhm.
get. But turning everybody into storytellers is really going to help. And there is a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of competition. Sounds like Peoria is doing some great things. We're going to also link all your social channels so folks can take a look at some of your initiatives and some of your stories you're sharing. We'll definitely make sure to link one of your kind of the why with
Yeah,
your staff so that you guys can
absolutely.
listeners can get an idea of exactly how you're sharing that. If people have questions, Sarah, what's the best way to stay connected to you?
Yeah, I'm pretty like connected on LinkedIn, and they can
Okay.
find me there by searching Sara Meredith. You can also connect with me via email, and that's at smeredith@pusd11.net. I also am over on threads at Sarah JM Snow if they want to connect with me over there. But LinkedIn is definitely the best spot.
Okay, so we're going to link your LinkedIn and then we'll also link your email. So if you want to reach out at all to Sarah and get some more information on this, but we will link up some of the supporting documents. And I love the idea also of the toolkits. Keep doing what you're doing, Sarah. You and your team are doing amazing things, and I really appreciate you coming on to share. You guys, I know it's already into June. Maybe it's too late for you to do a comms camp this summer. Maybe you decide to do a little shorter version this fall or at some point, or start planning it for next year because I think it could really, really save you. Like you said, with crisis communication and building those
Mhm.
relationships. So thanks so much for sharing with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon in Seattle. Everybody listening, keep telling those stories. They really matter. We'll be back next week with another fabulous guest and topic. So we'll see you soon. Bye bye.